The crystalline spires of the research vessel Luminarch glittered against the backdrop of the Andromeda spiral, each facet engineered to harness the quantum energies that powered the most advanced ship in the Galactic Alliance's fleet. Inside the main research chamber, Chief Scientist Vexera adjusted her floating array of holographic displays, her bioluminescent tentacles pulsing with excitement as she monitored the experimental quantum drive. Final calibrations complete, she announced to her diverse crew of the galaxy's finest minds. The new resonance matrix should allow us to achieve stable quantum tunneling without traditional particle acceleration. Dr. Cathor, the ship's theoretical physicist, extended his crystalline sensor arrays in approval. Like most Centaurians, his silicon-based body served as both form and function, allowing him to directly interface with the ship's quantum systems. The calculations are perfect, Chief Scientist. This breakthrough could revolutionize interstellar travel. The Luminarch's bridge crew, representing 6 different species and technological traditions, worked in harmonious precision. Each had been chosen not just for their brilliant minds, but for their willingness to push the boundaries of known physics. Captain Zinra, her scaled skin shifting through patterns of command gold, monitored the operation from her neural interface chair. "Begin primary sequence," she ordered, her translator converting her subsonic speech into standard galactic common. "All stations, report readiness." The first warning came not through their advanced sensors, but as an almost imperceptible vibration through the quantum-dampened deck plates. Dr. Cathor's crystalline form flickered with concern. "Chief Scientist, I'm detecting unusual harmonic patterns in the quantum field." Vexera's tentacles coiled tightly as she dove deeper into the data streams. "Impossible. The containment algorithms err." Her words cut off as the second warning manifested in a brilliant flash of purple-white energy that rippled through the research chamber like heat waves over desert sand. "Multiple quantum field fluctuations detected," the ship's AI announced with artificial calm. "Warning. Dimensional stability compromised in sectors 7 through 13. Captain Zinra's scales flashed emergency crimson. "Shut down all quantum systems. Emergency protocols." The third warning demolished any hope of a simple solution. Reality itself seemed to tear open at the heart of their experimental drive, a wound in space-time that leaked impossible colors and geometries that shouldn't exist in normal space. The ship's superstructure groaned as conflicting gravitational forces pulled at its frame. "Quantum cascade failure." Dr. Cathor's voice carried the horror of understanding. "The experimental matrix isn't just failing. It's creating a self-sustaining quantum storm." Through the growing rift in reality, they could see something that defied description. A realm where the laws of physics themselves seemed more like gentle suggestions. The ship's sensors, the most advanced in known space, began returning readings that their systems couldn't even categorize. "We're being pulled in," Navigator Telesi announced, her four-fingered hands dancing across controls that were starting to respond erratically. "Standard emergency protocols are failing. The quantum distortions are affecting our anchor points." Vexera interfaced directly with the ship's systems, her tentacles now crackling with emergency power. "Begin emergency broadcasts on all frequencies. Include full sensor data and coordinates. We need." She paused, her species equivalent of swallowing pride. "We need help. This is beyond even our understanding." As the quantum storm grew, tearing new holes in the fabric of space around them, the crew of the Luminarch faced a terrifying reality. They were the greatest scientific minds in known space, masters of technology so advanced it would seem like magic to most species. But their very mastery had created something they couldn't control, couldn't predict, and couldn't escape. Their distress call raced through subspace, carrying with it sensor readings that would make most rescue crews turn back in horror. None of them could have known that their salvation would come not from the advanced spacefaring races, but from a species that had barely reached their nearest stellar neighbors, a species that still relied as much on instinct as technology. As the quantum storm raged around them, Captain Zinra made the final entry in the ship's log. We have 48 hours before our containment fields fail completely. May the cosmos grant us aid, for we can no longer help ourselves." The Luminarch hung suspended in the heart of its own creation, a monument to the hubris of advanced civilization, waiting for a rescue that conventional wisdom said was impossible. But conventional wisdom had never met a human pilot. The grand chamber of the Galactic Alliance hummed with barely contained panic. Holographic displays filled the vast space with images of the Luminarch, now wrapped in a cocoon of quantum distortions that defied the laws of physics. 3 rescue attempts had already failed spectacularly. High Chancellor Xenva, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of distress, addressed the emergency session. The last rescue vessel was torn apart before it even reached the outer boundary of the quantum storm. "We've lost contact with 12 of our finest pilots." Admiral Kraz, commander of the Alliance's rescue fleet, projected his thoughts directly into the chamber's neural network. "The storm defies conventional navigation. Our quantum computers cannot predict its patterns. Each time we calculate a safe approach vector, the distortions shift in ways that violate our fundamental understanding of spacetime." In the lowest tier of the chamber, where junior members typically observed in respectful silence, Lieutenant Sarah Chen of Earth's Space Defense Force shifted uncomfortably in her environment suit. She had been sent to observe Alliance rescue protocols, part of humanity's ongoing integration into galactic society. Now she watched as the most advanced civilizations in known space failed to solve a problem that seemed eerily familiar. "Permission to address the chamber," she called out, her voice small in the vast space. The chamber fell silent. Humans rarely spoke during High Council sessions. Their species was still considered primitive by most Alliance standards, barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel. "Granted," High Chancellor Xenva responded, more out of courtesy than expectation. Sarah stood, activating her datapad. 3 years ago, we faced a similar situation in the Sol system. A quantum mining accident created what we called a probability storm near Jupiter's orbit. Conventional ships couldn't get through. "This is hardly comparable to a mining accident," Admiral Kraz projected dismissively. "With respect, Admiral," Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength, "the principles are similar. When reality starts breaking down, when quantum uncertainties manifest at macro scales, trying to calculate your way through becomes impossible. Sometimes you need to stop thinking like a computer and start thinking like a storm chaser." She transmitted data from her pad to the chamber's main display. The assembled aliens watched footage of a small ship dancing through chaos near Jupiter, moving in ways that seemed to defy both physics and logic. "Meet Captain Maya Patel," Sarah explained. "She developed a technique we call quantum surfing, using the ship's own resonance field to ride probability waves rather than fight them. When the storm hit Jupiter, she saved 16 trapped miners by essentially becoming part of the chaos." High Chancellor Xenva's crystalline form shifted with interest. This pilot deliberately embraced quantum uncertainty. "Humans have a saying," Sarah replied. "Sometimes you have to bend so you don't break." Captain Patel doesn't try to predict where the quantum fluctuations will be. She feels them, responds to them, becomes part of their flow. Her neural interface is calibrated to translate quantum data into sensory input, sight, sound, even touch. Admiral Kraz projected skepticism. "You suggest we entrust our most brilliant minds to a human using unproven techniques based on feeling." "I suggest," Sarah countered, "that we tried fighting this storm with pure logic and lost 3 ships. Maybe it's time to try something illogical." The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments, dozens of species debating the merits of human intuition versus advanced computation. High Chancellor Xenva raised her appendages for silence. "Where is this Captain Patel now?" Sarah checked her datapad. "Running rescue operations in the Kuiper Belt. She's developed her techniques further, integrating some Alliance technology with human neural interface designs. Her success rate with quantum anomalies is unmatched. Because no one else would attempt such reckless methods," Admiral Kraz projected. Because sometimes, Sarah replied quietly, the only way through impossible odds is to try something impossible. High Chancellor Xenva's crystalline form pulsed with decision patterns. Contact her. The Luminarch has 36 hours of containment field power remaining. We have nothing left to lose. As the chamber buzzed with activity, Sarah sent the emergency request. She knew Maya would come, not for the glory or the challenge, but because people needed help. That's what humans did, even when the advanced species of the galaxy thought them primitive. Sometimes, Sarah reflected, being primitive meant you hadn't forgotten how to trust your instincts. The quantum storm around the Luminarch grew stronger, twisting reality into new and impossible shades. But for the first time since the crisis began, there was a glimmer of hope. Sometimes the most advanced solution wasn't the right one. Sometimes you needed someone willing to dance with chaos itself. The Starweaver looked out of place in the Alliance's pristine docking bay, its hull marked with scars and modifications that made the attending engineers' environmental suits pulse with distress. Maya Patel ran her hand along a particularly dramatic scorch mark, a souvenir from diving into a solar flare to rescue a stranded research team. Your vessel appears. Unsafe, Chief Engineer Rick Stahl observed, their crystalline appendages twitching as scanners analyzed the ship's unusual configuration. Maya smiled, continuing her pre-flight check. She's not unsafe, just honest about what she's been through. Every mark tells a story, and every modification serves a purpose. She patted a cluster of what appeared to be mismatched sensor arrays. These were salvaged from an old quantum telescope. They don't just detect probability waves. They let me feel them. The ship's interior proved even more shocking to Alliance sensibilities, where their vessels featured clean neural interfaces and pure quantum computation. The Starweaver's cockpit was a hybrid of human intuition and alien tech. Physical controls merged with holographic displays, and at the center sat what looked like a pilot's chair crossed with a musical instrument. The quantum resonance chamber, Maya explained, settling into the chair. It translates multidimensional probability data into something a human brain can process. Sound, touch, even taste sometimes. When reality starts breaking down, you need all your senses to navigate it. Sarah Chen, now serving as liaison between Maya and the Alliance, watched the engineers' growing concern with amusement. They don't understand why you won't let them upgrade your systems. Their systems are perfect, Maya replied, running startup sequences that made the ship hum in complex harmonies. That's the problem. Perfection doesn't work in a quantum storm. You need flexibility, improvisation. You need to be able to feel the flow and move with it. The latest data from the Luminarch appeared on her displays, but Maya closed her eyes instead of studying it. The ship's sensors fed directly into her neural interface, translating the quantum chaos into a symphony of sensation. The storm's getting stronger. The containment field won't last 30 hours, maybe 25 at best. High Chancellor Xenva's image appeared on the main display. Our calculations suggest any approach vector will result in your ship's destruction. The quantum distortions error. With respect, Chancellor, Maya interrupted, eyes still closed as she listened to the storm's song. Stop thinking about vectors. This isn't about calculation. It's about conversation. The quantum field is trying to tell us something. She opened her eyes, fingers dancing across controls that responded as much to intention as touch. The Starweaver's engines came alive with a sound unlike anything in the Alliance fleet, not the pure tone of quantum drives, but a complex chord that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space. "What are you doing?" Admiral Kraz demanded as the ship's energy signature began fluctuating in patterns that defied standard protocols. "Tuning," Maya replied. "Every quantum storm has its own frequency, its own rhythm. You can't fight it. You have to learn its dance." She adjusted another set of controls, and the ship's hull began humming in harmony with the distant distortions. "There? Feel that?" Sarah could feel it, a subtle vibration that seemed to bypass her physical senses and touch something deeper. The Alliance engineers' instruments were registering impossible readings, but Maya smiled like someone hearing a familiar song. "The storm isn't random," she explained, making final adjustments. "It's a complex system trying to find equilibrium. All those failed rescue attempts, they tried to force their way through. We're going to let the storm itself show us the way." The Starweaver lifted off, its modified systems already beginning to resonate with the quantum chaos ahead. Maya's hands moved across her controls like a musician at her instrument, each adjustment bringing the ship's signature closer to the storm's own frequency. "This is madness," Admiral Kraz projected. "You cannot simply feel your way through a quantum anomaly." Maya's response was calm, focused. "Humans have been feeling their way through the impossible since we first looked up at the stars. Sometimes madness is exactly what you need." She turned to Sarah, ready to dance with chaos. The Starweaver moved toward the quantum storm, not in the straight lines of Alliance rescue attempts, but in graceful curves that seemed to follow invisible currents in space itself. As they approached the outer boundary where 3 ships had already been lost, Maya closed her eyes again, letting the storm's song flow through her neural interface. "Here we go," she whispered. "Let's show them how humans navigate the impossible." The ship entered the quantum distortion field not with the brute force of advanced technology, but with the grace of a leaf carried by a winter wind, becoming part of the chaos rather than fighting it. And in the Alliance Command Center, watching their instruments register what should have been impossible, the gathered species began to wonder if perhaps there was something to be said for human intuition after all. Inside the quantum storm, reality itself seemed to breathe. Colors that shouldn't exist painted twisted ribbons through space, while probability waves made normal matter flex like cloth in a wind. The Starweaver rode these waves, its modified hull resonating with frequencies that defied conventional physics. Maya's hands never stopped moving, each adjustment a response to sensations that bypassed normal human perception. Through her neural interface, the quantum chaos translated into a symphony of sensation. Ripples of pressure against her skin, complex harmonies in her ears, even tastes that had no names in any human language. "Approaching primary distortion zone," she announced, eyes closed as she felt her way through the storm. "The Luminarch's containment field is creating interference patterns. It's like hearing 2 songs played slightly out of sync." In the Alliance Command Center, the gathered species watched in stunned silence as the Starweaver achieved what their most advanced ships couldn't. The vessel's movement patterns made no sense to their quantum computers, yet somehow maintained stability in space that should have torn it apart. "Impossible," Dr. Thor transmitted from the Luminarch. "Your ship's quantum signature should have collapsed the moment you entered the distortion field." Maya smiled, though the expression was tight with concentration. "That's because you're trying to maintain a single signature. We're letting ours shift and flow with the storm." Her hands danced across controls as another wave of distortion approached. "Like riding a wave, you don't fight the ocean, you become part of it." The Starweaver rolled through a space that looked like shattered glass, each fragment showing a different version of reality. Maya's neural interface translated the quantum flux into something her human brain could process, a complex rhythm she could feel in her bones. "Containment field at 18%, came the warning from the Luminarch. "Structural integrity failing." "I feel it," Maya responded, opening her eyes to watch reality twist around her ship. "The field collapse is creating new resonance patterns. Sarah, transfer power to the lateral quantum sensors. We need to." The space around them suddenly lurched, probability waves colliding in ways that sent shivers through the fabric of reality itself. The Starweaver spun through the chaos, but instead of fighting it, Maya let the ship roll with the distortion, using the momentum to surf through a gap in the quantum interference. "Direct approach isn't possible anymore," she announced, fingers flying across her controls as she read the storm's changing patterns. "The field collapse is accelerating the probability cascade. We need to." Yes, there it is. Through her neural interface, Maya had felt something the Alliance's quantum computers couldn't detect. a rhythm within the chaos, a pattern in the probability waves that emerged only when you stopped trying to predict it and started feeling its flow. Captain Patel, High Chancellor Xenva's voice carried barely contained anxiety. Our models show no possible safe approach vectors remaining. Then we'll make our own, Maya replied, her voice carrying the calm of absolute focus. Sometimes you have to stop looking for the path and start dancing with the storm itself. The Starweaver began moving in ways that defied conventional spaceflight, each motion flowing into the next like steps in an improvised dance. Maya wasn't following any calculated course. She was letting the quantum chaos itself guide her, feeling its rhythms and responding with intuition honed through years of impossible rescues. Containment field critical, the Luminarch reported. 12 minutes to complete failure. Maya's hands moved faster, the Starweaver weaving through probability waves that should have shredded its hull. Almost there. The collapse is actually helping us now, creating interference patterns we can ride straight to you. Sarah, prepare the quantum tether. We're going to have exactly one chance at this. The space between the ships looked like a kaleidoscope had exploded, reality fracturing into countless possible versions of itself. But where Alliance technology saw only chaos, Maya felt the underlying order. The dance of quantum possibilities that existed in the space between what was and what could be. Now, she called, and the Starweavers spun through one final impossible maneuver, using the very forces that threatened to destroy them as a path to salvation. In that moment, as human intuition guided advanced technology through the heart of chaos itself, the gathered species of the Alliance witnessed something they had never truly understood before. Sometimes, the most sophisticated solution wasn't the most advanced one. Sometimes you needed something more primal, the ability to feel, to adapt, to dance with the very forces that threatened to destroy you. The quantum tether shot out through fractured space, reaching for the Luminarch, as reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The quantum tether blazed through shattered space like a lifeline through a storm. For one breathless moment, it seemed to stretch and distort in the chaos, its energy signature fluctuating wildly. Then it connected with the Luminarch's hull, creating a resonance bridge between the ships. Tether stable, Maya announced, though her hands never stopped moving across the controls. Beginning harmonic synchronization. Dr. Cathor, I need you to match your containment field frequency to our tether's resonance. The crystalline physicist's response carried clear hesitation. That would mean deliberately destabilizing our remaining field strength. The calculations. Forget the calculations, Maya interrupted, her voice tight with concentration. Feel the resonance. Your containment field is fighting the quantum storm. We needed to dance with it instead. Through her neural interface, Maya could sense the complex interactions between the ship's energy fields, the quantum storm, and the fractured reality around them. It translated into a symphony of sensation. Discord seeking harmony, chaos yearning for pattern. Trust me, she added softly. In the Luminarch's control room, Dr. Cathor's crystalline form pulsed with decision. His species had relied on pure logic and computation for millennia. But now, surrounded by the impossible, he did something unprecedented. He trusted human intuition over alien certainty. The containment field's frequency shifted, its rigid patterns becoming fluid, adaptive. The quantum tether between the ships began to pulse with new energy, creating a bubble of relative stability in the heart of chaos. Now, Maya called, everyone hold on to something. We're going to ride the probability wave home. The Starweaver's engines sang a new harmony, one that resonated with both the quantum storm and the Luminarch's modified field. Instead of fighting the chaos, both ships began to move with it, like dancers following a complex but natural rhythm. Reality twisted and bent around them as they navigated through spaces that shouldn't exist. Maya's hands moved in constant motion, adjusting their course not by sight or calculation, but by feeling the flow of quantum possibilities around them. Each correction wasn't just a movement, it was part of an ongoing conversation with chaos itself. In the Alliance Command Center, The gathered species watched their instruments register what should have been impossible. The ships weren't just surviving in the quantum storm. They were using its own energy to propel themselves toward safety, surfing probability waves that their most advanced computers couldn't even model. Approaching storm boundary, Sarah reported, her own displays showing patterns that defied conventional physics. Quantum resonance holding steady. Maya nodded, her focus absolute as she guided both ships through the final and most dangerous phase. The storm's trying to pull us back in. Everyone ready. This is where things get interesting. The space around them erupted in a final display of quantum chaos, reality itself seeming to protest their escape. But Maya had been ready for this, had felt it building in the storm's song. The Starweaver spun through the distortion, using its momentum to pull the Luminarch along a trajectory that looked random but felt perfect. With a flash of impossible colors and a surge of quantum energy, both ships burst free of the storm. Behind them, the quantum anomaly collapsed in on itself, reality rushing in to fill the void where chaos had reigned. In the aftermath, as Alliance rescue ships approached with medical teams and emergency supplies, Maya finally allowed herself to relax. She opened her eyes to find the Luminarch's crew staring at her through the comm display with expressions that transcended species barriers. "How?" Dr. Thor asked simply. "How did you know that would work?" Maya smiled, touching the neural interface that had allowed her to feel the quantum storm's dance. Sometimes the universe doesn't need us to understand it. Sometimes it just needs us to listen and move with its rhythm. The impact of the rescue rippled through the Alliance like waves in still water. In the days that followed, the greatest scientific minds in known space began to reconsider their assumptions about advanced technology and intuitive understanding. The Luminarch's crew, having experienced firsthand the power of human adaptability, became advocates for a new kind of space exploration, one that balanced computation with instinct, technology with intuition. Maya's techniques, once dismissed as primitive and unreliable, became the foundation for a new field of quantum navigation. Alliance ships began incorporating human neural interface designs, creating hybrid systems that could both calculate and feel their way through space. But perhaps the most profound change was in how the Alliance viewed humanity itself. They had long considered humans primitive, barely worth notice in the grand scheme of galactic civilization. Now they understood that sometimes the newest species had the most to teach about navigating the unknown. In the end, it wasn't superior technology that had saved the Luminarch. It was the uniquely human ability to embrace chaos, to dance with the impossible, and to trust in something as unreliable as instinct when all logical paths had failed. The quantum storm had challenged the very foundations of Alliance certainty, and humanity, with all its beautiful imperfection, had shown them a new way to navigate not just through space, but through possibility itself.